It's another early morning on the way to go dirt biking in Massachusetts. Heavy overnight rain, so no Franklin, this time Foxboro.
Yeah, open. Yeah, that's right. O-P-E-N. Open. Let's go.
Well, they've got the trail sign turned around the right way. Rich and I are back at it. Very wet day at Foxboro after some heavy overnight rain. I guess it's no surprise that we're the only bikes in the parking lot. Everybody else smarter than the two of us. Rich has only been here once before. I've been coming here since back in the mountain biking days. Yeah, that's right, Rich, right in here with the Trailblazers yellow.
The wet route will be very slippery today.
So as we kind of get used to the conditions here, taking it a little easy, a point about the beta. I made a discovery during the week, and that was that in the owner's guide for the beta, the instructions clearly state that the adjustment for the rear suspension is counterclockwise for stiffer, which is the opposite of all the suspension in the entire world, except for the suspension on the cross trainer. So if you watched me complain for 2 hours about the soft suspension on my beta at the Sandlapper Enduro, keep in mind I was turning it the wrong way. So you might be wondering, how does the beta feel with the adjuster turned the correct way? It feels great. I could not be more surprised, and I'm really happy. It's now perfectly serviceable as a trail bike, even for hard riding, to the extent that we actually do hard riding. And I'm really pleased. I was kind of thinking about selling the cross trainer, but now that I've read the manual and turned the screw the right way, I'm keeping it, and I'm really enjoying it. We pushed the pace pretty good today, as you'll see over the course of the video, and throughout, I was nothing but pleased with the rear shock. Really happy. Front fork, still got to fiddle with that. Every time you see one of those big, thick roots stretching across the trail, keep in mind those are like glass today. And oddly enough, they are almost always closer to parallel than perpendicular to the route of travel. So almost always perfectly positioned to send you straight into the woods and on your ass. Another important difference with the beta, in addition to the stock shock absorber and rear being actually just fine, it has a working electric starter as opposed to my KTM 200. Boy, that makes a big difference. It's amazing. So between the starter and the shock, it's feeling pretty frisky, and the 300 has a bunch more torque than the 200. So, you know, here we go. Ready for a rockin' ride. So the new shock like totally transforms that section we just went through. It's a bunch of pretty tall roots, maybe like 2-3 inches, and rocks maybe 3 to 5 or 6 inches in quick succession. The old shock would pack up, and when you hit the gas, it would just kind of squat. Properly adjusted, eliminating the retard user error. It's nice and stiff, plenty of support over all that stuff. And when you gas it, it responds and picks up the front much more easily. Perfect.
That is slick. Very slick.
Well, hopefully you can tell I'm still just finding my way through the wet patches here, seeing just exactly what we have in store as far as traction, that kind of thing. An interesting commentary here. I sent about 10 seconds of this video to my friend Brian Gillen, who works for MV Agusta in Italy. And he sent me a text back, said, reduce rebound damping on the front fork. He's a smart guy, he knows what he's doing. It seemed like the wrong thing to do to me, but I did it. And the next time out, the bike is like totally transformed again. So now the rear shock is good and the front forks are good. I couldn't be happier, and it's so much easier to carry speed on the trail. What an awesome change. Thank you, Brian Gillen. It's amazing watching this stuff back after having made that change to the front fork, because I can almost feel it just watching. I can almost feel how that front fork was packing up and just really harsh. So I would see a rock or a succession of rocks, and I would know that it was going to be coming right up through the handlebars. So I'd really have to pick my line carefully, and of course it took a lot out of my upper body. After the change, I can hit that stuff and the fork does its job. It's now free to allow the wheel to travel up and over without transmitting that energy to the bar, and that means I can hit more stuff. I can just take a straight, like right through here, I can just take a straight line now, and it does. I don't get hammered like that. Also, it seems to hold the nose of the bike higher, so I can float over stuff, keep my weight back, and keep the gas on. It's just, it's transformed the bike. It's really great. With the rear shock feeling better, I'm able to get on the gas through sections like this. Pretty exciting. But we all know when I get on the gas, it's good and bad. Just a quick flashback here. I jump over those rocks, and then look here, I could have easily gone to the right of this tree, but I stopped and went left. That's kind of like just maturing as an enduro rider. I still don't have that kind of ability to improvise. That's pretty important, and obviously can save you from there, like save me from running into a tree, but also really increase your speed, just to see a little bit more of the trail and be able to be creative instead of just following exactly on the trail, even if it means having to hammer the brakes and course correct. Next time out, something to think about. Coming up here is one of the defining sections of Foxboro. It's one of the little step-ups, not so little when you come upon it on a motorcycle. Take a left and then a quick right here, and you have to get up and over. Let's see how I do. And oh, that's too bad. If you notice, the fork was totally dead when I hit the face of that. Usually I can ride around that, I'm totally used to it. But with my reduced rebound damping, presumably I will not have that same trouble again. Now just up here on the right, there's this old tree stump. Every time I look up right about here, I think that that tree stump is a person. Always gets me. I don't know why. The trail kind of continues on here, builds up to a series of increasingly technical sections, and then the big monster climb, which is exactly where on this ride my GoPro died. It came back to life up here at the top of that climb, and this is me. Where is Rich? Waiting for him at this big climb, and I'm waiting and waiting. Now I'm starting to think there's a problem. Let's go check it out. Good news, guys. Rich was fine. Small tip over, jammed his throttle,
away from the kids.
but we fixed it. Well, actually, he fixed it.
It actually felt refreshing to put my soaking wet goggles on my face. I mean, by the next time around, it'll be dried out.
It's getting there.
Yeah, it's funny, one of the times I went down high, I was like, all I smelled was gas, and there's a video about like 2 of these bikes catching on fire and burning. So every time I smell gas, I'm like, please don't catch on fire. Something with the TPI or something, I don't know. All right. I'm gonna go first, just try to keep up, all right?
Whoa, you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so Rich very briefly goes first, and then I take over. I'm feeling sprightly, jumping off these little rocks and stuff, and if I recall correctly, I actually almost launched myself off that hill, and this huge drop off right here. It's good times. A couple of clowns out in the woods. It's funny.
Little water feature here. I hope the audio caught my foot peg clicking against that massive rock. Oh, I nearly ripped my pieces off.
Well, after that little water crossing and that rooty, rocky little technical section, you go uphill, a couple serpentine back and forth, and into one of my favorite climbs of all of Foxboro. I think because it's just open enough that you can really attack it, and if you do, you're rewarded. It's like second gear, maybe third gear. Starts right after we go through these ruts here, right here, and hit it. Alright, one of my favorite climbs, followed by one of the, for me, most technical sections of the loop. All this stuff here, really rocky, no way to avoid most of these. Actually, the rebound adjustment will make a big difference here. That part's really tight. It serpentines back and forth here before we get to another of my favorite climbs. And again, I enjoy it because you can hit it pretty hard, second, maybe third gear, and actually jump some of the stuff on the way up. Yeah, so here it is, a couple of big puddles to steer around, and then up to this climb, which when I watched it back, starting right here, it's actually only like 3 seconds long. You know, when the really good parts are only like 3 seconds long, it makes you wonder. Maybe Rich is right. Maybe when he says, I hate Foxboro, maybe I should hate Foxboro too. Okay, that's just about enough of the fast flowing stuff. Let's get back to what Foxboro is known for. Take one more turn in the trail here and then up to what for me is actually the funnest climb of Foxboro. Nice and fast, really rocky as you can see, a couple of good lines, and just an opportunity to really bite into the climb and launch your way over a bunch of this stuff. Really work for it. Get to the top. One thing for sure is true, especially watching over this video again, the rocks, the conditions at Foxboro really do test the setup of your bike. And if it is not set up properly, you're just going to suffer. I'm suffering just watching this. You can see the front end is just super rigid and it packs up because the rebound is turned up too high. So the bike gets deeper and deeper into the stroke over these repetitive rocks, and as it gets deeper into the stroke, the spring rate increases, right? So it gets even stiffer and stiffer as it gets closer to the end of its travel. Oof, punishing. If you've got it set up right, though, it's a dream, and you can't even believe the magic carpet ride you're getting over these huge rocks, hit after hit after hit.
Is that number one?
What's that?
Is that number one?
Yeah.
Well, gotta get it out of the way first.
Okay, I gotta say, watching the video back, I can understand why it's frustrating to ride here. It is really fun though. I mean, sometimes. Okay, my heart rate right now is probably like 170 or something like that after struggling up that hill. It's not too bad if you don't have to stop, but once you stop, the amount of effort just goes through the roof. Anyway, the last little section here, pretty easy in the grand scheme of things. Just cut up through these woods here. A couple of fun little pine-laden climbs, which should make for good viewing. that section again, I'm reminded that the rebound change has made a huge difference. We've been out to Foxboro again, Rich and I, since we shot this video. And I couldn't use the GoPro on that ride, but watching this over, I see all these sections where the bike now feels so much different, so much better, with I think it was 3 or 4 clicks on the front end. Can't wait to show footage of the new and improved beta to you guys. Stay tuned for that. Well, that closes out our first lap on a very wet morning at Foxboro. Stick around if you want to see lap 2. It dries out a little bit, the speed comes up, and I think more bad things happen.